Welcome, everybody. I'm Mrs. Dorsey back with another fun 30 minutes of math. I want to give a shout out today to my third and fourth hours. I want to say hi to Ethan, Jenna, Chupacabra, you know who you are, Tortellini, and I miss everybody. Just a few things that I've been doing in this week since we've been away from each other. I got a little bit of a sunburn. I try to get a tan, but I'm pasty white, so it just goes super red. So last week we spoke about, I just forgot what we spoke about. We spoke about how to put like terms together and how to identify terms in an algebraic expression. So this week, we're going to build on top of that, and we're going to go into one-step and two-step equations. And as you can see, that's what we're going to learn today. So we're just going to get right into it. Okay? This problem says solve, and solve might be a new vocabulary term for you. And what solve means is to find the answer. And of course, when we're solving equations, that's the difference between an algebraic expression and an equation. With the algebraic expression, there is no equal sign. So remember, we just took those terms and we simplified them to the smallest we could, but the variable was still a part of that expression. With an equation, we want to find out what is that variable? What does it represent? And on a couple of my slides, I tried to find some really cute math jokes. I like to be funny. My students don't think I am. My husband doesn't think I am. My kids don't think I am. But I think I am. So that's all that matters. Remember, what you think of yourself is all that matters. So the square root of 9 is 3. True, false, or who cares? Many students actually look forward to Mr. Atwater's math tests. Sometimes I sneak in funny questions like that too. But let's get right to it. So this says solve x plus 6 equals 4. Check your solution. So we're going to do the x plus 6 equals 4 first, and then I'm going to show you what check your solution really means. So I'm going to rewrite it over here to the side. And when you have one-step equations, you want to make sure that you keep your variables on one side and your constants on the other. So sometimes students get confused, well, what do I move first? Because I see a 6 and a 4. And some kids want to move the 4 to the other side. But I have kind of like a silly story. In the land of algebra, my numbers and my letters don't like each other. And the variables are sort of in charge of the kingdom. And they want to get those numbers, the constants, out of there. So they are kicking them out of the kingdom, but the numbers are going to get the last laugh because they're going to do the opposite. They're rebellious teenagers of what the kingdom is saying to do. So your variable x in this example always stays. It does not move. And whatever number is on the same side as the variable, that's how you know what to move. So we have a plus 6 or a positive 6, and the opposite of that is negative 6. So we need to show what we're doing on both sides of the equal sign. That way, your teacher knows that you understand that 6 is going away on that side and it's moving to the other side where the 4 is. So make sure you cancel your work and then you just do the math. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. So x equals negative 2. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, Mrs. Dorsey, I can just look at that problem and figure out that the answer would be negative 2 just by sort of plugging in different values. And that might very well be the case. because we start out simple, so we're building foundational blocks. You know, we're putting tools in your algebra toolbox. But when you get to more complicated problems, you can't just plug a number in and hope it's successful. It's important to show your work, and I'm sure some of you are rolling your eyes. I don't like to show my work. You need to make sure that you do. Okay? So here we have 14 plus y equals 20. You know what? I didn't show you how to check your solution on the first slide. I'll do it here. 14 plus y equals 20. It's a different variable, and you're going to find that in problems you have all sorts of different variables. Most of the time it'll either be n or x or y, but I could put in c if I wanted to. It doesn't matter. So don't let that confuse you, okay? So I'm going to rewrite the problem so it's visible for you guys at home. And it says 14 plus y equals 20. Now, I'm looking at this plus sign, and I'm automatically thinking, oh, I must be subtracting. Don't make that mistake. That plus sign goes with the y and tells me that's a positive y. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the 14. So I want to look at the 14 and see if it's positive or negative, because that's going to tell me what I'm actually doing as far as an operation goes. So I can see that it's a positive 14. So I'm going to subtract 14 on both sides. And once again, we cross that out so that I know that you know that goes away. And then we just do the math. 20 minus 14 is 6. Make sure that you always bring, I was writing 14 again. Make sure that you always bring down your variable and your equal sign, and then make sure that your variable is first. Remember, we spoke about that last week. It's a really good habit to get into that you put your variable first, because that's standard form once you get into like Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, and higher. I don't do anything higher than that. It just blows my mind. But Miss Lewis does. Hey, Miss Lewis. So how do we check our solution? I'm going to do that in a different color. It's really cool. You can check your solution to see if you did the math correctly by taking your answer here, which is 6, and we're going to plug 6 back into the original equation. So that would look like 14 plus y, and I know that y equals 6, and then it says equals 20. So now I'm going to check, does 14 plus 6 actually equal 20? And the answer is yes. So I know that I did that correctly. Now, if you plug your answer back in and you don't get a balanced equation, and what does that mean? Think of like a scale, like the scales of justice. You want to make sure that whatever is equal on this side is the same thing equal on the other side. And so that's how you know that you've got a balanced equation. Okay. Ooh, this one looks a little bit different, Mrs. Dorsey. Why, yes, it does. So we have -5 equals b plus 8. That looks like a 6, but that's actually a b. My students get confused with that all the time. I can't change the way I write things, but that's a b. I'll underline it so you know. So sometimes the variable will be on a different side of the equal sign. That doesn't change anything. It doesn't change how I solve it. It doesn't change what I move. So I'm just going to, there's two things that you can do. The first thing you can do is just solve it as normal. The second thing that you can do, and I'll write it over here so you can see, is you can rewrite your equation. And I allow my students to do this because it doesn't change the problem, it doesn't change how they solve it, but many students are visual and they need consistency. So teachers, if that's something you've never thought of, you might want to try that and see if that helps with the confusion of this. So what you could do is you could write b plus 8. See, it didn't change, but bring your equal sign over here and then the -5. Some students will look at that and go, oh, I know how to do that. But I'm going to work it out this way so you can see that it's the same way. So the b is going to stay. The +8 becomes -8. That cancels out and we move it over here. Now, please think of your integer rules. I have the same sign. I have 2 negatives. Don't think of your multiplication rules because that's completely different. In addition, when I have 2 signs that are the same, I keep the sign and I just add the numbers. So my answer here is -13 equals b. Now this is why some kids like to rewrite the problem, because they don't have to switch the order this is in. And technically at the 7th grade, 6th grade level, this isn't wrong. But like I said before, I like to make sure that my students create healthy habits. So I make them rewrite it with the b first and then the -13. And they might circle that. So remember, if you guys have any questions about anything I've taught or anything that we've discussed today, don't forget to email me. Or if you're my personal student, you can contact me through Google Classroom. And of course it says check your solution. I'm not going to do that on every single problem because I've got a lot of slides to go through, but you could certainly plug this in. Something important to remember is when you have a negative answer and you plug it back into the variable, always make sure you put parentheses around it so that you know that negative hasn't become a subtraction sign. Okay. So here we have another one where the variable's on the wrong side of the equal sign, so to speak. So I'm just going to rewrite it for you so you can see it. And it's -12 equals 4 plus c. So again, think to yourself, what's going to stay? The c. What's going to move? The +4. And the +4 is going to become, very good, -4. So I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides. And then this is exactly like the problem that we just did. Think of your integer rules, -12 and -4. They're the same sign, so I keep my sign and I add my numbers. So my answer is -16 equals c. And of course, algebra rules, good foundation, rewrite it to say c equals -16. Okay, isn't that dog cute? It's got glasses like me. And yeah, I have a dog at home. She's not big at all. Her name's Holly. Hi, Holly. Okay. Okay, here we have another one-step equation. Mrs. Dorsey, why are you doing so many? We already get it. Well, I am a firm believer that repetition builds confidence, and repetition helps you memorize it in your brain. Yes, so pay attention. Okay, what's going to stay? The y. What's going to move? Mom? Very good, the 14. So it becomes -14 because remember, we always do the opposite. They're rebellious, just like I was as a teenager. Joking, not really. So we subtract that on both sides. And then we have y equals, and what is 20 minus 14? 6. Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and skip this one just for the sake of time. I don't want to run out. Okay, keep calm and do the math. Yes, sometimes when you feel overwhelmed in math, your brain starts to shut down. So what I tell my students is take a deep breath, close your eyes, and allow your brain to process what you're seeing. Remember, you guys already have all the tools you need to be successful. It's somewhere in your brain. Give your brain just a minute to be able to run to that little file. I think of SpongeBob and where little SpongeBob is running through all those file cabinets in his brain, setting everything on fire that's not fine dining. I don't want you to do that. You know, math is important, but please remember your own name. So we've got negative 12 equals 4 plus C. So ask yourself, what's going to stay? The C. What's going to move? The positive 4, and the positive 4 is going to do the opposite, which is become negative, or you can even say subtract 4. So whatever works in your brain to help you understand what you're doing. And remember those integer rules. So my answer is negative 16 equals C. Yes, you're right. Rewrite it, Mrs. Dorsey. I can hear you guys at home saying it. I can't really hear you at home, but I'm imagining you are. Okay, so here we have a subtraction problem, and it is x minus 2 equals 1. So all of the problems that we did before were originally, excuse me here, my eye's itchy. All of those problems that we just did were addition problems. And so I threw in probably too many slides, so I'm going to skip some here just for the sake of time. But this is a negative 2 or a minus 2. So just like we did before, ask yourself, what's going to stay? The x. What's going to move? The negative 2 or the minus 2. And the opposite of that is plus 2. And once again, this is one of those problems that you could probably look at it and just say, oh, I already know what the answer is. But we're building foundational math skills. So showing your work now, even though it might be a pain in the rear for you, in the long run, when you get to multi-step equations and you have to do 5 steps, you're not even going to think twice about showing your work. It's just going to be an automatic habit that you've created, and you'll have me to personally thank for that. You're welcome ahead of time. Okay, I'm going to skip that one. Here we go. Now we're into multiplication. So multiplication, the opposite of multiplication is not addition. Okay, some of you probably just said that out loud, and you'd be wrong. It's okay to be wrong, just as long as you learn from your mistake. The opposite of multiplication is division. So whenever you see a number letter stuck together, that means times, and the opposite of times is division. So here we go. I'm going to rewrite the problem nice and big for you to see. And the x is still going to be what stays. So the opposite of that is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And I'm going to bring my x down, bring my equal sign down, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. Okay, I've got my cute little baby over here with the glasses. See a theme? It says, I have never let my schooling interfere with my education. I'm going to let you ponder that. Get back to me. Okay, here we have 39 equals 3y. And once again, our y is going to stay. It's not going to move. Our 3 is what's going to move because it's attached to the y. So remember, we're kicking the numbers out of the kingdom of algebra. I'd let them stay, but I didn't make the rules. So divide both sides, and you get, I'm going to rewrite it over here. You get y equals, what is 39 divided by 3? It is 13. Now, how you would check your solution for this is the same way we did with the addition problem. We rewrite our problem, and we're going to plug in 13 where the y is. And once again, you see me putting parentheses around anything that I plug in. That's a good habit to get into. And 39 is equal to 39, 3 times 13. So we did it right. Yay! Okay, what if I have a negative, Mrs. Dorsey, and I'm dividing? Does it change to a positive? No. I'm not adding or subtracting. So you keep that -4. And here we go. -4z equals 60. I divide both sides by -4. And z equals, anybody want to tell me what 60 divided by 4 is? Anybody at home? 15. -15. Don't forget that negative. Opposite signs, when you're multiplying or dividing, your answer is always going to be negative. Okay? Oh, now we've got some division. Oh, but here's a funny joke. Why is the number 6 so scared? Hold on. Because 7, 8, 9. Hilarious, right? Just laugh. Give me that much, okay? Thank you. So, I have a divided by -4 equals -9. Now, for some reason, division problems seem to be some of the most confusing problems in, 5 minutes, in the math world. Because we do so many multiplication one-step equations, I don't think we do enough of these. So I try to tell my kids, whenever you see the fraction bar, you know you're going to be multiplying. So on this particular problem, I'm going to multiply both sides by -4. Now, what does that look like? And next week, I'm going to show you the more in-depth reason of why we do what we do. But for now, we're just going to do the simple part. So I'm going to put my -4 up here. And I'm going to use the multiplication symbol in algebra, which is the dot. And then, because I have my funny joke over here, I can't write it this way. So I'm going to write it down here. Okay? And those cross out. So what I'm left with is A equals, now think of your integer rules. I have a negative times a negative, which is what? Very, very good. It's positive. Yeah. So my answer is 36. Ooh, here's another one. And we'll go ahead and check our solution here. So I'm going to rewrite m divided by 2 equals -10. Now remember, I see the fraction bar. So that means I am going to multiply because it's the opposite. Even the fraction bar in a fraction still means division. Bet you didn't know that. Or maybe you did because you're just too smart for your own britches. So we are going to multiply both sides by 2. Don't forget to use the dot for your multiplication symbol. Do not use the X. I know it's a hard habit to get out of, but you've got to do it. So that's going to cross out. And that's gonna, now I've got room to do what I normally do over here because I don't have a funny joke. So now we've got m equals, and think of your integer rules with multiplication and division because they're the same. Negative 10 times 2 is negative 20. Okay, so how do I check my solution in a division problem? Same thing we've done. We plug our answer back into the variable. So I'm going to, I write really big, I apologize. I'm going to write that up here. So negative 20 goes in the place of m, and the 2 goes where it was at, and that equals negative 10. So now I'm going to do the math. Negative 20 divided by 2, that does equal negative 10, and I now have a balanced equation. Or you could say this is a true statement. Ooh, I'm going to save this problem for next week because it's a little bit more involved. Some of my students may be looking at that going, oh, Mrs. Dorsey, that is so simple, which is great. But some of our friends may not think that's so easy. So well, that is going backwards for Wayden. It's a big boy. Okay, I just want to, this was my first slide, but it was too dark. And it says, Math with Mrs. Dorsey, a.k.a. the Mathemagician. I'd like to think that when I enter my classroom, that's what I become. So I hope you guys had a chance to look at those websites that I told you about last week. Khan Academy is a website, but it's also an app. I said that CUDA software was an app, but I don't think it is. I just think it's a website. And then I found some other ones, math drills, cool math games. If you're bored of doing just the typical problems like we did today, which I could never be bored of because it's so much fun, Cool Math Games is a great website for you to go to. All right, check it out. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.